Welcome to Registered, the podcast of the Catholic Register, where we'll be taking a look at the stories that graced all of our platforms over the past week. I'm Mickey Conlon, editor of the Register, alongside reporter Luke Mandato. This episode is brought to you by Full of Grace, which has in production the major film titled All for Her, based on the life of Father Patrick Peyton. His worldwide rosary crusades were initiated in Canada with the famous slogan, "The family that prays together stays together." Visit fullofgraceproductions.ca for more details. Well, we got another week in the life of the Catholic Register, and this week it's just Luke and myself as Quinton is off piling up the air miles as he's on assignment in France. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in the coming episodes, but not just Quinton that's out on the road. We've got Luke, you've packed yourself a suitcase and went on a bit of a tour yourself. Well, maybe you didn't pack a suitcase, but you hopped in a car and you traveled just to our west to take in the installation of Bishop Joseph Dabrowski as the 10th Bishop of Hamilton. Now, we've already spoken last week about Bishop Dabrowski taking over in Hamilton. So, Luke, I'd like to ask you, I'm assuming that's the first time you've ever seen a bishop installed. I know you have been at some of the ordinations in the past, but what did you think of the ceremony, the pomp and the ceremony surrounding it all?
Yeah, thanks, Mickey. I mean, it was grand. It was sort of similar to those ordination masses that I had been to in the past, but just a feeling in the air of something a little bit more special, a little bit more important going on than your typical Sunday mass, right? Of course, it starts out with the entrance of the bishop in question, this time Bishop Dabrowski. He waits at the door. They gotta have him knock, and then he's brought in front of his people for the first time, which is very exciting to see. I mean, of course, during this time, I was sort of huddled at the back of the cathedral, trying to peer over people's heads to get a good look at him, right? But it was absolutely packed there at Christ the King Cathedral Basilica in Hamilton. Of course, there's the reading of the Apostolic Letter of Appointment, and it's actually brought and shown around to all of the parishioners through the aisles and through the pews during the sprinkling of the holy water, which I thought was very interesting at the beginning. Another sort of aspect that was interesting to me that I hadn't seen before was the greeting of the faithful. Different groups from across the diocese and across really all of Hamilton, representatives, whether from students from the local school boards, the senior population, things like that, families from across the diocese actually go up one by one and introduce themselves and greet the new bishop while he's on his chair. So it was very special to see. And I mean, I had been speaking with Mr. Dabrowski since his time back in PEI. I think this would have been probably the fourth or fifth time that we had connected or been at an event together or spoken together. So it was just great to see him through to the installation, and you could sense that even though it was the first time in front of everyone there in Hamilton, just the joy that he was experiencing was great, and joyful for me as well to have it be my first installation to attend. I've heard you've attended some in the past, Mickey. Is that correct?
Well, I'm trying to remember if I've actually been to a bishop's installation, and for the life of me, I really can't remember because I've been to so many of the priestly ordinations. In fact, the first priestly ordination I went to was a bit of a funny story to it. It was back in my days. I was about 12 years old, and it was being the ordination was being done at our parish, which I guess because there was a lot more priests being ordained back then, you could do it in the individual parish. And I remember my mother going, "You have to go to this. You have to go. You'll never go to another thing like this again in your life." And well, lo and behold, of course, now I've become a Catholic journalist for all these years, and I've been to more than a few. So there, Mom, I could have skipped that one, but I didn't. So, and they're always it's always you really enjoy the ceremony because you feel so much joy for the person in this case when I was the priest being ordained, but I imagine for Bishop Dabrowski himself, and I know some of the pictures that you got from the Hamilton diocese. You just see the smile on Bishop Dabrowski's face, and I imagine this is what about 3 days later now, and I bet it still hasn't been wiped off his face. So all the best to him, and we're looking forward to dealing with Bishop Dabrowski over the however long he's there. He may be on his way up more. Who knows? So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But of course, your travels, they didn't just take you to Hamilton last week, now did they? You also made a stop in Vaughan, just north of Toronto, at the award-winning Mandato Winery, at a little tour there. Now, I suppose it wasn't quite like a tour you'd take if you were out in the Niagara region, out in Prince Edward County, over in the vineyards of Italy or France. So why don't you tell us what this one was all about?
Yeah, for sure, Mickey. It definitely wasn't like a vineyard tour or anything like that, although they keep their grapes out in the Niagara region, as you mentioned. But this was a very interesting visit for me. And of course, the sort of key to the story is that, the award-winning, one of the most prestigious wineries in Ontario, Mandato Winery, has undertaken this new mission towards making sacramental wine. So I was able to sit down with Miss Rosanna Magnata, who started the winery with her husband Gabe in the early 1990s, and just sort of get a feel for where this new mission came from. She says it's been sort of a lifelong thing for her that she's wanted to pursue, and now is finally the time. It actually goes back to their her and her husband Gabe were major collectors of artwork. The artwork that they've collected actually graces all of the different Magnata stores across the province. And of course, they have a very large personal collection. But she had purchased this artwork of two angels back in the early 90s. And she had said that even back then, she thought maybe one day this could grace a bottle of sacramental wine. She's a devout Catholic and has been all her life. So it was something that even as far back as before my time, she was thinking about having this artwork be a part of it. Lo and behold, when I arrived sitting on a table there, 4 bottles of sacramental wine that they've been producing with the exact artwork from all those years ago on the bottles. So it was an incredible sort of talk with her. I half jokingly said, I arrived. She said, "Do you want to do the interview now? Do you want to go see the cellar? Do you want to do some wine tastings first?" And I said, we can do the interview now. It's probably best because if we start getting into the wine tasting first, the questions might get a little abstract. So,
And
nonetheless,
you might
we were
have to
able.
take a cab home.
Exactly, exactly. So we had to be careful with that. But it was a beautiful experience. I got to see the cellars there with all the different barrels of wine loaded up. We had a great lengthy talk about this. She unfortunately lost her husband Gabe probably around just under 20 years ago now. I think it was in 2009. But she's carried on the business, and she said that in this period of her life, it's about giving back. And as a devout Catholic all her life, this new sacramental wine approach is something she's wanted to do. We talked a lot about the different canon law standards that goes into sacramental wine. It has to be 100% grape. It's got to be grown clean right from the ground. Can't really have too many additives or fillers in there. So really a lengthy process. Something not that you're going to make your money back on, most likely. Something that's not going to get you the glory that the awards that all of her other wines have, but something deeply personal to her. So it was great to have that chat and taste some nice wine at the end of the day too. Never a bad day on the job, right?
Right, right. Well, one of the other interesting aspects of this is you've got 4 bottles of wine, and she brought family into it.
Absolutely. Yes. So the 4 bottles, part of the Archangel series, one of them named Gabriel. It was dead center in the table, as I had said, Mickey, almost like she couldn't keep her eyes off it. It was the first one she showed me. It was the one we talked about the most. I had asked her, Gabriel, where does that go back to? And here's what she had to say.
I could have put Gabriel's name on any one of these wines, right? But because this higher alcohol sweet white is the most complicated product to produce in a very clean, beautiful way, and with the extra work and hand done all this air dried. I gave it to Gabriel because it's my Gabriel.
Ah, that's a nice story. We wish the best to Mrs. Magnata, and I know that they've already been out to some of the dioceses across Ontario, and are hopefully getting their product out and into the churches. So, a very good news story out of the Archdiocese of Toronto. But it's not the only good story that came out of the Archdiocese this week. We also, and this would be Quinton, unfortunately, he's not here to tell us about it. He wrote the story about how ShareLife has announced another record-breaking year. So this year they set a goal of raising 14.5 million through the parish campaign, which is just a little bit above what they raised last year, another record-breaking year in 2024. So 2025, they set the sights higher. Well, didn't they come in at almost $1.2 million more? Just amazing that they can, because let's look at it. Every time we wake up, we're hearing about Trump, tariffs, what a terrible economy we have. We've heard this for 2, 3 years running, sort of thing, if not longer. Even maybe going back to right after COVID, right into COVID. So it's just been constant. Yet each year we've got the Catholics who step up and incrementally give more and more to this ShareLife, the fundraising arm of the Archdiocese, which supports some 40 agencies. They support youth, seniors, vocations, teen moms. Oh, just so many more. So it's always great to see. And Arthur Peters, the executive director at ShareLife, it's basically the first words out of his mouth whenever we we interview him about this. He's always amazed at the generosity of Catholics in the Archdiocese. So I know you've done a number of these stories, Luke. Why don't you tell us about, in particular, the food security grants?
Absolutely. And firstly, something to say about Arthur Peters is just someone so passionate about this area of work. And I know, you see the name probably if you're a listener, Arthur Peters, ShareLife, but people like Mickey and myself and Quinton who talk to him on a pretty regular basis, always willing to chat, always willing to talk about what Catholics are doing and how it's benefiting all of those great, agencies that you talked about there, Mickey. So just incredible to hear that they were able to do this once again this year. I believe this year ShareLife was able to allocate, I think it was $800,000 to food grants. And that's building on commitments of, I think it was $500,000 in 2023 and $750,000 in 2024. For their 2025 campaign, it was 800,000. So just unbelievable to see that number continue to grow. I think it was over 30 parishes and different community organizations received those funds. I spoke with Peters probably in our Christmas issue just before the end of last year, and they were just below that parish campaign line. And I didn't want to say, are you feeling the pressure? Do you think we'll get to it this year? He was cool as a cucumber, Mickey. He said, Catholics always show up when we need them the most. And I think you even recall we did that story about charitable giving being down in Canada overall. I asked him, is this something ShareLife's seeing? Absolutely not. Catholic giving is always going to be there. It's always going to meet the needs. And, even when I showed him the statistics, like, it's looking pretty low in Canada, maybe as low as it's been for a while. No fear. Absolutely. Just knew what needed to be done, knew that his people would come through. And we talk about Catholic giving. It's just incredible the way it continues to grow and continues to show up every year when we need it the most.
Yeah, kudos to all you people out there that are donating to ShareLife, including we've got the anonymous donor at the end of the year when things are looking a little tight. They may not come. He always steps up. He, she, we don't know. It's anonymous, as I say, and offers $500,000 in matching grants that quite often puts the campaign over the mark. So excellent. Thank you very much to all. So I guess that brings us to this disclaimer. The podcast you're listening to, we guarantee will not be trying to raise any or defraud you of your hard-earned money. Though, of course, donations to the register are always welcome. We can't say the same for some of the fraudsters out there who have been preying on the goodwill of people of faith to earn a quick buck. I know you did a story about some cybersecurity this week. How about you tell us a bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had sat down with David Finnegan from the Archdiocese of Toronto's Management Information Services, just to sort of chat about some of the things we've been seeing in our inbox, Mickey, whether it's just warnings from higher ups about what to look out for, or even things directly that land in our inbox that look questionable. These scams that people see in their personal emails are not just personal. They can come into business emails and corporate emails as well. So I basically had a chat with Finnegan just about what we should be aware of, what he's seen over the years combating this. He's been with MIS for many years now, and the first thing he said is just the approach, the entire culture of fraud as having changed. It's no longer I think he said, it's no longer the Nigerian prince trying to offer monetary rewards for email access. It's not the person with the hood up typing in a dark room on a laptop. He said maybe 25 years ago that was the case. Now, he said it's people like him that maybe have extensive knowledge about technology. It might be people like me who are good at getting creative and sharing information. It might be people like you, Mickey, who are familiar with running a team and organizing a team. These are legitimate crime syndicates that are operating under the format of a legitimate business. So we chatted about them. Exactly. So we chatted about some of the scams. We chatted about what we can be aware of. He said, especially slow down, be wary of these suspicious emails, anything that feels urgent or requires immediate action. Take a second to pause, find a way to verify the source. Don't email back right away. If you have a text or a phone number, reach out. He says these sort of things are always going to be around. Unfortunately, there's no way to eradicate them completely, but their education's always ongoing, and it's always something that he hopes the faithful are keyed into. So if you're ever interested in what you can do to protect yourself best, you can give that story a read right now on catholicregister.org.
Yeah, well, I guess we consider ourselves somewhat digital savvy and computer savvy, and you find even geez, is that something? Is that true? And you have to give it that second thought. And luckily, and that's what was it? The Canadian Council of Churches had something which was you'd made note of in the story about they're looking for donations to help. What was it? People get immigrant visas. Well, that's not something the Council of Churches does. And then we had someone from the diocese, the Archdiocese of Toronto, their email had been hacked, and we won't go into exactly who, but things were sent out. And in fact, I got one of those emails myself. I don't know if you did. And at first, I thought, well, this could be addressed to me. And then I started thinking, and I looked at the subject line. It's like, I'm not sure I'm privy to that. So I made a call, and I said, yeah, stay away from that. So
it's unbelievable. Like, it used to be the crazy fonts you'd see, or the email was 1,000 characters long, and you knew instantly something was off. Now with the rise of AI and just how intelligent they've gotten, there's even some things, I've grown up really in the digital age, and there's some things that come through my inbox or on my phone where I go, do I have to do something about that? It's unbelievable. So really important to know how things are changing, and just great that we still have people out there that are keeping an eye on things like that.
Yes, I feel the people who aren't quite so computer literate and savvy. You know, I do feel for them, but please, if you're out there listening, take a second look. So you just never know. So again, we will not be hitting you for any money for this, unless of course you'd like to send some to us. So, anyways, well, thank you for joining me here, Luke. We will welcome Quinton back next week. I think he's back from his world travels then. But if not, you and I can we can take care of things. And I thank everyone for tuning in. You know, you make this happen. So thanks very much. And of course, to our sponsor, Full of Grace, which has in production the major film titled All for Her, based on the life of Father Patrick Peyton. Visit fullofgraceproductions.ca for more details. And of course, to stay on top of all the Catholic news worthy of hearing, uh, keep in touch with us at catholicregister.org. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next week.